Hello everybody, I'm David Bird. Welcome to Half Spin, where we talk about the sport of knife throwing. Today I want to talk about the different kinds of metal used for throwing knives. Alright, so there are lots of different kinds of metal out there, and I am not a metal expert. But what I'm going to do is kind of generalize down to 4 different types that are used for throwing knives. Let's first talk about stainless steel. Most of your inexpensive throwing knives will be made out of stainless steel. They do this so the knives do not corrode, they don't rust, which is a nice feature. There are 2 different types of stainless steel that's used. There's a harder stainless steel and a softer stainless steel. Let's first talk about the harder one, which is what you'll most likely encounter when buying inexpensive throwing knives. So just like this Smith & Wesson Bullseye. So the Smith & Wesson Bullseye, along with most of the throwing knives that you'll buy on Amazon for a low price, are going to be made out of this harder stainless steel. Now the problem with it is, it will crack, it will break. It's too rigid and it's not that durable of a metal. The reason they go with the harder stainless steel is because it will resist burrs and dents and nicks and all of those kinds of things. But because it's rigid, being hit over and over and over again can cause weak spots that will snap. So a lot of people that have had these bullseyes, they snap in half or a tip breaks off. And so stainless steel is great because it doesn't rust, but the harder stainless steels have a tendency to snap in half or even the tips break right off. The softer stainless steel, like what Keysliar uses, is nice because it doesn't snap and it doesn't rust. But because it's softer, it gets nicks and dents all over the place. And so when 2 of the knives hit, you'll have a big dent and you'll have to go file it and fix it. And so it's a stronger knife in the sense that it doesn't snap, but you will get dents all over it. And so when I throw the Keysliars, I usually have a file and I'll get a little dent and I'll have to fix the burr on it. Otherwise it'll be sharp and it'll hurt my hands. So there's a lot more knife maintenance, more repair when you have a softer stainless steel. You have to fix them. But the knives do last longer in general because they're not gonna snap and the tips aren't gonna break off. And so there is advantages to having that softer stainless steel. Once you get to the more custom knives like this Buggo setter, they use a high carbon steel. Now there's lots of names for high carbon steel and there's lots of different kinds of high carbon steel, but I'm gonna just sum them all up together as high carbon steel. One of the ones that you've probably heard a lot is spring steel. Spring steel is a high carbon steel. And so what is a high carbon steel? It is a strong steel. It is used for things, applications like tools or things where you need them to be durable. And so having a throwing knife made out of spring steel or high carbon steel is good because it's going to be durable and it's going to last. It'll handle impact after impact, and they make for very tough knives. The problem with it is they do corrode. So over time, you're gonna get a patina on it that you might have to sand or you'll have to take care of it a little bit. They have throwing knife kits where you like oil them a little bit, but they will eventually succumb to corrosion. So that's different than the stainless steel throwing knives. But these are much tougher. They're gonna last a lot longer because of the high carbon steel is so much more durable. Lastly, I want to talk about D2. D2 is a fantastic metal for throwing knives. It is stronger than most of those high carbon steels. So D2 is stronger than spring steel. It also resists corrosion. So the problem with the high carbon steels was they're going to corrode, but D2 resists that. It will corrode, but it'll take years for it to corrode. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a very strong steel and you're not going to have the corrosion. So I think D2 is the perfect metal to make throwing knives out of. Unfortunately, AceJet, I think, is the only company that's making throwing knives out of D2. So thank you, AceJet, for pioneering the way to get us D2 throwing knives. I hope some other custom knife makers start doing the same thing. I think the reason other knife makers are not doing it is because it's an expensive steel and it's hard to work with, but I'm not completely sure. Well, I hope I was able to help you understand the different metals used in throwing knives. Unfortunately, we don't really get a choice. A lot of times there'll be a throwing knife that you like and it comes in a certain metal and there is no choice, there is no option. I mean, there are many throwing knives that I have in stainless steel because that company only makes them in stainless steel. So when you're picking out a throwing knife, you're kind of at the mercy of those knife makers, whatever metal they decided to use. But if you do have an option or there's a specific thing that you're looking for, maybe maybe this information will help you. For example, if you're really tired of all your stainless steel throwing knives breaking and snapping, then it's time to move up to a custom knife maker who's gonna make it out of spring steel. You'll know that it's gonna last a lot longer because it's a more durable metal. If you go to AceJet and you're trying to decide, you can choose between D2 or spring steel. And so I would go with the D2 if you have an option. All right, everyone, I will see you next time.